There's $20 million that's set aside for that in this special duty pay in order for us to start paying down our workers who've been working for the past almost 4 months now in this pandemic, as we all know, is COVID-19. So this legislation really gives safety and security to the workers, brings in the hazard pay that's required for us to, well, not a requirement, but more as importantly, taking care of our employees. And last but not least, having protective equipment known as PPE in the workplace across the Navajo Nation and having this available. This legislation does, if you can see, it references that it's going through the process, and it does go off the Navajo Nation CARES Fund expenditure, our statute, which is GMY-44-20, which created that. So, again, colleagues, this is just a first appropriation of the Navajo Nation's funds that the Speaker's office was urgently suggested to sponsor in order for us to get a lot of these different organizations prepared, get them appropriately paid, and also making sure that we had a well-planned place and plan in place for us to get these dollars out. So that was the whole reason why 10132-20 is there before you, my colleagues. And I can stand for questions at this time. Mr. Pro Tem Chair, on with Halona.
Thank you, Speaker Damon. Committee members, I think we had Honorable Delegate Daniel So. You can proceed, please, with your questioning.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem Halona, members of the HES Committee, and guests listening in. Speaker Damon, thank you for sponsoring this legislation, and basically, I guess the main question, this is, once the council acts on this, it'll be an immediate appropriation. Then after that, I'll have a follow-up question.
Speaker Damon?
Yes.
Can you go ahead and respond to that?
Yes, again, the Navajo Nation Council, once acted on this, would be sent over to the president. The president then would have 10 days in order to act and have the authority to sign this into law, or would have the authority to veto it, or even line item veto it, because this is an appropriation under Title 12, according to the Appropriations Act. So it would be up to the president in order for us, actually the president, to move forth with this. Once this legislation is signed off, hopefully signed off by the president, then it would take an act of different kind of resources in order for us to work together with the controller and with OMP and that process, working together with the PTF and the citizen fund management plans and expenditure plans in the past, would usually take anywhere between 2 to as long as 14 days to get through the process in order for that to go through. So you're looking
So, Damon?
It would be an appropriation. It would be an immediate appropriation, but it would take some time still in order for us to get these dollars effectively through the process, Honorable Chairman. So.
Thanks,
Okay,
Speaker Damon.
thank you. Thank
Mr.
you, Chair Pro Tem and to Speaker Damon. So I have a better idea in how we would go forward with this. Will this, there's the effort to merge 0116 with CMY 44-20. This will be one of the actions that will be merged and immediately eligible for expenditure. That's my question.
Speaker Damon?
Honorable Chairman, so if this legislation, let's say if CMY-44 and let's say 116-20 comes to Nabi tomorrow, someone motion to add that back onto the agenda. I do believe Honorable Halona at that time stated that he would probably like to make a motion for Dana Barbaroff's recommendation to merge what was basically merge CMY into, or 116 into CMY-44-20. And that language of that amendment has been sent out to everyone. And let's say that Honorable Halona did that. Then at that time we passed this. I would probably stop this legislation. I would probably halt and move that we don't move on this legislation until council decides that 116, if it's approved by council, then it would go into Navajo. Once it's approved by Nabi, and let's say that merger happens, then this whole legislation goes to council, 116-20. If you can see in that legislation, 116-20, there's already an appropriation for something like $10 million for special duty pay. I think there's $8 million for PPE and $10 million for building modification. At that time, I would think that council had spoken and they would want to just appropriate it going in that direction. This is a backup legislation if that does not happen, Chairman Daniel. So,
Speaker and Chairman, this is Dana. Could I add something to that response?
Yes, Dana, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Speaker explains it probably better than I generally do, but I just want to reassure the committee here that if 116 fails and does not pass council, this legislation is still valid and doable and can be still approved to adopt the expenditure plan under CMY 44-20. So, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate So, do you have more questions?
Thank you. Pro Tem Chair, that's the response.
Yes, sir, Mr. Damon. Mr. So?
Thank you. That was answered my questions.
Okay, committee members, do we have any more questions? One more time for committee members. Delegate Slater, proceed.
Yes, I don't know if it's possible to accomplish at the committee today, but I have two proposed amendments, and one of them is to make an immediate appropriation to the domestic violence shelters that currently are contracted with DSS for $150,000 per shelter. And then the second amendment is to include the Navajo Association's proposal of $1 million. And that's been presented to the committee, and I think both documents have been forwarded to Mr. Haven and Ms. Bobroff. Actually, there isn't anything for the shelter right now. I'd rather it just be a grant that has to comply within the confines of the CARES Act language.
Okay, so you're not making an amendment to this legislation?
No, I am motioning to amend the legislation with those two amendments, or have it as well.
Okay, you are making a motion. Okay, committee members, there's a motion to include. I guess it's only going to be the Navajo Association. Is that correct, Mr. Slater?
Yes, Chair Pro Tem.
Committee members.
If I may, those amendments will be challenging because they'll have to be twisted around so they don't change the intent here. And the intent here was that the dollars would go in internally. I can work on the Autopoly one. I need about 15 minutes. But I also, and I can do the Autopoly one because I have an expenditure plan that's been provided. Doing the one for the domestic violence shelters, I need an expenditure plan. That is required under CMY 4420. So I will work on the Autopoly one. Thank you.
Dana, is that to include it into this legislation of 13220?
It's my understanding that that was Delegate Slater's request.
Okay. Speaker Damon.
Honorable Honor.
Do you have any problems with putting that into your legislation?
Thank you, Honorable Pro Tem Chair. Let me say that the Navajo Nation, no matter what, is in dire need of many things, and this legislation belongs to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee at this time, and whatever amendments that are here at this time, I respect whatever the committee does in moving forth this legislation in order for us to make sure we get it out as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Committee members, do we have any other questions about this legislation then? We have a motion by Delegate Slater to include the Navajo Association, $1 million. Could I get a second to that motion, to the amendment?
Second.
Second by Daniel So. Any questions on the amendment? If no questions on the amendment, I'd like to give a call for the a motion to make a vote to the amendment to include the Navajo Association for $1 million.
Honorable Paul Gay Jr.
Red.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Charlene So.
Green.
Honorable Daniel Eso,
Green.
Honorable Edison J. Winika,
Red.
Pro Tem, we have a vote of 3 in favor, 2 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Mose. Motion to amend the legislation to include a coffee association for $1 million has been approved. Dana?
Yes. As I said, I cannot have that amendment language for about 15 minutes. The actual language, I'm working on it now, but it's not ready.
Okay, so it's been voted on to be approved, so as soon as you get that legislation ready, we can vote on the legislation.
Okay, I'm working on it.
Thank you. Committee members, any more questions?
Chair Pro Tem, this is Delegate Slater.
Delegate Slater, proceed.
Thank you. Speaker, what is the next expected expenditure plan that will be coming from the Speaker's office? Do you have a schedule right now for how you'll be dropping the future expenditure plans? And could you elaborate on that? Thank you.
Speaker Damon?
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Alona, Pro Tem Chair. Honorable Slater, for your question at the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. Most importantly, back to the question, Honorable Slater, I think what Speaker's office is finalizing now is that if you remember, I guess the discussion that we had for the past couple of days, we are looking at all the comments that are still currently coming in on legislation 0116-30, because we're not only utilizing the comments that came in on 115-30, but we're looking at all public comments for every single thing that the public wanted to utilize in order for us to address the most important needs. Second thing is that we are going back because not only the Department of Justice, but the Office of Legislative Counsel has asked us to really go back and meet with each one of those presenters to really identify that when they presented to the Nomination Council, that each one of those specifics, individual budget allocations are actually an appropriate appropriation that will not have any audit findings in the future, and each one of those individual expenditures, whether it be anywhere from PPE equipment to giving dollars to small businesses or trying to find a way to get economic development in there, even though that it states that economic development projects are not allowable according to the U.S. Treasury. So what we're doing right now is we're following back with each one of them. Most importantly, like we've just got done with reaching out and closing out the presentation with Water Management Branch, NTUA, and IHS, and working together with the NTUA and CDEC and Hamas Electric for power lines, and then also moving in towards broadband. Individual ones are kind of the harder ones from those presenters that presented and didn't really give an overall independent budget, like Division of Social Services, like Division of Community Development, and really trying to see those guidelines. Now, interesting that they didn't give us any individual budgets. We're going back and trying to see what they did, and we're making sure that at least looking together with not only the staff to make sure that everything is compliant, or at least looks to compliancy under the Treasury guidelines that these are allowable expenditures. We're also taking into consideration as individuals have recommended to give dollars to chapters. Our colleagues, who have recommended to give dollars directly to the chapters. But in doing that, again, there's individuals in the Controller's Office, individuals in the Department of Justice, who are worried about certain things about having appropriate funds go to the chapters. But if it was going to directly to chapters, these dollars might have to be held in Window Rock, just like the Navajo Nation Gaming Enterprise funds towards the gaming distribution funds are. And we're working with little details like that because we just don't want the chapters to get any audit findings. They're going to be held accountable in order for them to go ahead and spend these dollars down. So we're putting all that together right now, Honorable Slater, and it's a tedious process, but this was the first one that was an immediate authorization that could definitely go out. So the Navajo Nation, as of right now, is sitting on $690 million of federal CARES funds through the second transaction of dollars that was given to the nation. Now, what we're doing right now, again, Honorable Slater, is making sure to reassess and making sure that all those documents are in place so that when, if the Navajo Nation Council does approve it, and did two things. One option is that we do the override and legislation CMY-44-20 becomes whole. We would sponsor a legislation and it would just go immediately through the process to the council. And at that time, individuals through the council would make recommendations of change through that process. Now, if CMR 116-20 gets approved with that amendment, that would create and fix the statute itself and relatively create that task force. So in that case, if the task force is voted on and that's what the council wants to do, then the Speaker's office is going to give all that information that we compiled over to the task force, because that would be the direction that the council wants us to go down that path. So that's just a long haul update. But if the Speaker's office is ready to drop the bigger portion of an expenditure plan, I would say, Honorable Slater, that would be no later than early next week.
Thanks, Speaker Damon. Delegate Slater?
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem. Thank you, Speaker. I really appreciate the update and explaining not only just to us at the committee level, but those who are listening in on the conversation where we're at as a council and the direction of your office and what you've been able to get done thus far. I think the strategy of moving things out as they become clearly expensible to the CARES Act is a very good idea. And I strongly support you continuing within that mindset. I think that will get us the maximum value and the maximum usage of the funding that we've been provided. So I appreciate your staff's work, appreciate your direction, and I look forward to these next packages and ensuring that even if there's a question of the legitimacy of the expense, that if the Navajo Nation leadership stands together, it will be allowable and good for our people. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Slater. Committee members, anybody else have any questions for Speaker Damon?
This is Dana. Chairperson, I'm still working. Give me a few more minutes.
Okay, Dana, we're standing by.
Chairman Tim Halona, this is Delegate Crotty. May I ask a question?
Good afternoon, Delegate Karate. Yes, you may.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem, committee members. Thank you, Speaker Damon, for providing this legislation. I thank the committee for allowing me to ask this question. One area that I'm concerned with, Speaker, is you mentioned working with the Office of the Controller and looking at this fund. And I understand that it would be optimal for the Controller's Office to carefully monitor every dollar, and I agree with that. What I'm concerned about is when you mentioned the gaming distribution, that distribution process has been problematic from the beginning. Can you enlighten me and the committee in terms of how that's going to be remedied, and what at Budget and Finance, actually the Office of the Controller and the Office of Management and Budget had 10 days. The directive was to create an expedited process, and that would have been June 10th, and we're still waiting for the, I know that there's a working document, but can you provide some insight? Because I would say right now that gaming distribution process is timely. It's we know that it's there's delays, and so I'm just hoping how you envision to get this funding out to the community to protect them from COVID and to mitigate any potential exposure. Thank you.
Speaker Damon?
Thank you, Chair Colonna. Thank you to the question from Madam Chair Evercrotty. I think the most accurate thing that if the dollars were going to have to stay in the nation or the central government, like let's say if the Navajo Nation appropriated $350,000 to each chapter, that $350,000 would probably have to have specific, it has specific guidelines on there that's created with and tied with the United States Treasury's office. But let's say the chapters were to immediately have funds to, like, say, draw down $25,000 for PPE, maybe planning out 6 or 7 bathroom additions, having dollars expended towards PPE, which is the public employment program. And I think that if we were going to create something like that, that would be immediate authorization that could definitely, I think, would be feasible in order for the chapters to get portions of those checks out. But I think the thing that has stalled the gaming distribution fund is the committee. The committee that is supposed to come and meet, and that committee is supposed to authorize funds for all kind of, like, construction, power line, anything that to do with the capital outlay projects for the dollars that are available through the gaming distribution fund. I think that, looking at that, Madam Chair, I don't believe that if I was going to put any kind of recommendation forth, that there would be no type of committee like that that would stall. As you know, as I think all my colleagues know in the council, I don't know when the last time that committee, that gaming task force committee, is supposed to have been put together and led by Division of Community Development in order for them to really go through the projects and make sure those projects are actually allowable under the gaming distribution fund. So I think that's one thing, an area that looking at. But again, Madam Chair, Crotty, I have not received anything back to this day from Division of Community Development, and that's one of the reasons why we're going off of what is recommended from my colleagues in the Speaker's office now. We did get a note that Dr. Yellerman from Division of Community Development was going to be releasing a budget or a form of a budget, formal recommendations for possible dollars to go to the chapters by June 10th or 11th, but that date has come and gone, and we haven't received an update on that. Now, going back to your question about the directive for the 10 days after CMY-44-20 was in place, Madam Chair Connie, I would have to refer. I know that Ms. Dana has been to a couple of those meetings. I'm not too sure if that's something, maybe that's something I can have as a recommendation from OMB and from the council to have something in writing by tomorrow before NABI, so I can get that information out to all of our colleagues, Madam Chair and McCarty. And I yield back and forth.
Speaker, can I add a little to that?
Dana?
Okay, I'll make this quick so I can get back to my drafting the amendment. But we have the Office of Legislative Counsel, Controller's Office, DOJ, and OMB have met on that, the templates and procedures 4 times. No, excuse me, today is the 4th meeting. That meeting is going on right as we speak. I think that very quickly there should be a final document. And I agree with Speaker that having a report on that tomorrow at NABI would be great. Cordell Shorty's job at the Office of Management and Budget is the primary drafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Delegate Karate? Delegate Karate?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Pro Tem. I would just ask from Dana to provide that copy and send me the information on when those discussions are happening. What we do not want to do is create another layer of bureaucracy. We want to expedite this, and expediting means streamlining, getting it done, and we could set up a system with technology, with enough oversight so that we can monitor, and that's why we need that transparency piece. Thank you very much, committee members. Thank you.
Okay, Dana, if you could take care of that, I appreciate it. Are we almost done with the amendment yet?
Almost done, and yes, I will take care of that.
Committee members, while we're waiting, does anybody else have any questions?
Tivers.
That's absurd. So that's official?
Dana? Are we almost done? It's
I'm
2
coming,
o'clock.
I'm writing as fast as I can. As I said, these are very complex, amendments. I actually thought the request was to do a separate registration for the expenditure plan. So I am working on these amendments. Give me 5 more minutes, please.
Okay, just a reminder, Speaker Damon's gonna have to leave us here in a minute for the, Navikichit session. That's a continuation of the, Intech part.
Hello?
And they're trying to.
Hello, we're still standing by.
Yes, it doesn't matter if it gets out. Give it to the next committee.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hey,
Still here.
okay, I will send it in just a second, please. Okay, Chairman, Acting Chairman Malona, I just sent it.
Okay, Dana, have you sent it out to the committee members yet?
I sent it to some of the committee members, Mr. Ray, and Mr. Haven. Hopefully they can forward it, and yourself and Delegate Slater, and I think Delegate Chairman So.
Okay, how about Beverly Martinez? She needs a copy so we can read it into the record.
Okay, I will send that to her.
Thank you. So we can add it to the committee report. Where is,
The amendment looks great to me. Sure, Dana.
okay, committee members, we have the new amendment. Ms. Martinez, could you please read that into the record, please?
Amendment 1 to legislation 0132-20. Item 1, page 1, line 15, after capitalized insurance, insert underscore M, the Navajo Association Incorporated, page 4, and paragraph underscore the CARES Act future plan $20 million educate, share, promote, and teach.
Language requirement that ought to be in this agreement for CARES Act.
Ms. Martinez, can you pause for a moment? And can we ask everyone to please mute your phones? Someone has another call that is being brought into this line.
There you go, Mr. There you go. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. Item number 2, page 4, line 16, add a new paragraph as follows. Capital N, period, underscore, the purpose of the CARES Act funds and Navajo expenditure plan attached as Exhibit 5 is to provide $1 million to educate, share, and promote the teachings of the Navajo cultural wisdom and ceremonial healing practices, interventions that will specifically address the mental and psychological anguish and spiritual health impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. The expenditures set forth in the Navajo expenditure plan are necessary to ensure that the effects of COVID-19 are addressed in a culturally relevant approach. 3, add new Exhibit 5. 4, page 5, line 22, after Exhibit 4, insert and the CARES Fund the Navajo expenditure plan as outlined in Exhibit 5. Number 5, on page 4, delete, overstrike $20 million and insert $1 million. Parentheses, $1 million. 6, page 5, line 8, add new paragraph E as follows. D underscore. The Navajo Nation hereby approves and adopts total funding for the Navajo expenditure plan from the Navajo Nation CARES Fund in the amount of $1 million and allocates the funding to the Navajo Association for the purposes set forth in Exhibit 5. Number 7, page 5, line 19, delete, overstrike, and 4, and insert 4, underscore 4 and 5. Number 8, page 5, line 24, and page 7, line 17, after department, comma, insert and underscore the Navajo Association Incorporated. Mr. Pro Tem, the amendment is ready to the record.
Committee members, do we have any questions concerning the amendment? There being none, back to the main motion on the legislation 132. Mr. Mose, any questions on the legislation 132? If there are no questions, I'm call for the vote to approve this legislation.
Can they hear you? I think unmute 6. Or 6.
Hello?
Hello?
Mr. Mose, we can hear you.
Okay, all right, sir. For the vote, Paul Begay Jr.
Green.
Sorry, Honorable Paul Begay Jr. Honorable Carl Russell Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Daniel E. So.
Green.
Honorable Edison J. Winika. Honorable Edison J. Winika.
Green.
Honorable Charlene So. Pro Tem, I have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Mose. We have legislation 13220 passes 4-0, pro tem not voting. Now we're going back to the reports. I'm going to turn this meeting back over to...
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. I'll turn it back over to you, Delegate So, Chairman So.
Thank you, Honorable Pernell Halona. Committee members, how does the committee want to proceed? We have a very important NABI work session regarding Navajo Transitional Energy Corporation. And that call started.
Delegate Slater, I motion to adjourn and have the remaining reports heard at the next week's test committee meeting.
Committee members,
I'll second that motion to have the next, committee meeting, have the next reports heard.
okay. Thank you. And so in that case, we would adjourn, but committee members, be on the lookout for that special meeting to address only the discussions on the domestic violence aspects. And we'll put that request for the special meeting to Speaker Damon
Date of the committee.
by 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Chairman, so what date is the committee looking at?
Okay, Delegate, so what day are we looking at for that meeting to happen?
I'm thinking, and committee members, either the 22nd or the 23rd.
Tuesday or next week.
Okay,
If you want to express your preference right now, we can.
right now, either day will work for me, sir.
Okay. Alrighty. We have a
22nd.
motion and a second to adjourn. Mr. Mose, roll call vote, please.
Honorable Paul Begay Jr.,
Green.
Honorable Carl Russell Slater,
Let the record show Honorable Carl Slater text me to vote green on adjourning.
all right, sir, thank you. Honorable Charlene So, Honorable Charlene So, Honorable Daniel E. So,
I can't vote.
I'm sorry, but
I'm
Honorable Pernell Halona,
A lot of us green.
Honorable Edison J. Winika,
Green.
Chair, a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right. Thank you, committee members. We have the special executive session call-in number that we used yesterday. And we'll go straight to the NTEC executive session. Committee members were adjourned. And again, text me a preference, either the 22nd or the 23rd. Thank you. And so let the record show we are adjourned at 3:16.
Second or the 23rd.
Well, we won't leave the city for the
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey.
Thank you.
Chairman, what day, the 22nd or 23rd? I can turn in the special meeting and memo today.
Committee members, can you wait till, let's say, in the morning?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
I'll listen to you on the next call.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sheila.
What
Did
happened?
you get that 65 gallons from
I passed it all out to the chapters.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I had,
Well, I know that some of our Arizona people are hearing.
oh, is that right?
Yeah.